Task 3 has two parts, Part A and Part B. Part A is where you will document your understanding of how you work effectively with vocational learners, building on what you actually completed in Task 1 and 2. Part B requires you to actually put forward a formal briefing with your assessor to observe based on you outlining the things that you've learned about your sector and, really importantly, information about your learners, how you apply your understanding of vocational education and training to the learner groups that you would actually be faced with as a qualified trainer assessor. Let's just focus on Task 3A to start with. That's the documentation that's there. So you're required to complete, again, a range of questions based on your research and understanding based from your previous tasks, as well as your current and future role as a trainer assessor. So you're required to submit that document in the 3A portal, and then you're required to brief your assessor on what you've learnt that's actually in the document that you've submitted. That briefing can be undertaken during your training if you're attending face-to-face training, or if you're unable to attend the session where that time is allocated, or you're doing this by distance, you would need to actually do a video recording just with yourself on screen. There doesn't need to be anybody else around, where you're explaining to your Foresights trainer assessor what you've learnt and about how it rolls out in your workplace. Again, based on the document that you will have submitted. So let's have a look what's in the document that you actually need to complete. So this task requires you to consider a deeper and develop a deeper understanding of your role as a trainer assessor within your own organisation and industry. So you'll notice that throughout this particular unit, we've actually got you to research the vocational education and training sector. But this is really about how it applies to you. So while you've been learning about the broader picture, none of that might, or not all of it, might apply in your particular role within your industry or organisation. So this is where you're really telling us about your particular role within your industry and organisation. So you fill in and tell us about your business and what industry you're in. And then from there, look at explaining to us different legislative requirements that you need to follow when you're training and assessing somebody within your industry or workplace. So consider at least 5 different laws that you need to adhere to. There are some general laws that we all have to adhere to. Work health safety might be one of those, and there are a whole range of other ones as well. So really think about what kind of legislation you have to adhere to when you're working with and communicating with people, because that's our key role in training and assessing. Organisational requirements: consider at least 3 policies or procedures that you might need to adhere to or would need to adhere to in your role as a trainer assessor. So again, you may need to go back and consult with some people in your workplace to get a bit of a feel for what we're looking for in those responses. You do also need to explain your organisation's processes for enrolments, how you provide student or worker support. Like if you're in a workplace providing work skill instruction, say for instance, they may not be called students, they're actually workers or employees. So what we're looking at there is how you provide support within your workplace for people who might be doing workplace training. Same too with assessments and reassessment requirements, and also dealing with plagiarism, which is becoming a bigger issue these days than ever before. You've then got some general questions. How will you or do you identify learner needs, and give us an example? What will you do to address learner needs? Give us an example. How will you check and act on feedback from vocational learners to improve the quality of your practice? So think about how you do self-reflection or self-assessment there, or gain feedback and who you gain feedback from and what you do to action that. And we've just got some questions here about your types of learners. We want to get to know who your learners would be. So you can put 3 different types of learner groups here. In this case, I've put experienced managers entry-level workers, and potential new workplace trainers. And in the second column, you need to provide a bit of an example of what the needs and expectations are from those 3 different learner cohorts back in your workplace. Cohort is not just another name for groups. And then question 2, we've also got a link there for you. There are 5 key strategies commonly associated with providing inclusive training and assessment practice. You're to research those and outline what you do to apply each of those strategies in your role as a trainer assessor. So how you build relationships, how you encourage collaboration and representation, how you build and develop competence and celebrate diversity, uniqueness and culture. So I hope these tips have helped you with this particular task, and again, we look forward to receiving your submission. Bye.